It's amazing. It's amazing. Wow.
We're having fires and floods in the same place, so you never know what'll happen.
Oh my. Well, that's not cool. Mhm.
Yeah, Ruidoso's on fire and it's causing mudslides.
Oh my Lord. That's awful.
Yeah.
Well, for those who are watching this and they're like, what are these two crazy people talking about? I'm Lisa Kastner. I'm the founder and executive editor of Running Wild and RIZE Presses. I'm here with the phenomenal Ben White. And we are typically here at times with some of our other fantastic editors. And we are here for you to run wild and just ask us anything. We answer questions around, it can be, seriously, you can ask us whatever you want. It doesn't mean we're going to answer it all, but it does mean that you can ask it.
We'll answer it. It just may not be to their satisfaction.
Yeah, you may not like the answer is basically the bottom line, but we'll still do our best. And I want to say a huge congratulations to Percival Everett. So Percival was one of my mentors at Breadloaf when I went to Breadloaf so many bajillion years ago, and he just optioned one of his books called James to Steven Spielberg, which is like, wow. So I can't wait to see this. Like, I'm sure it won't come out for like 5 years, but still, like that's enormous. And he's an absolutely brilliant, a brilliant human being, an amazing human being, and a brilliant writer. So I'm just so beyond thrilled for him. It's crazy. Um, and one thing that we always put out there, by the way, so going back to the whole reason why we're here, not just to be in awe of our former mentors, um, um, is that if you're watching this and it is not between 5 and 6 p.m. Pacific time or 8 and 9 p.m. Eastern time, it's all good. Just go ahead and pop your questions into the comments section and we will do our best to respond to them. And guess what? We actually got a bunch of questions over the week. So Rodney Hatfield actually had a couple. He said, how can someone effectively connect with book bloggers and reviewers in my genre to generate pre-launch interest and potentially secure blurbs? And then what strategies can someone combine, such as advance reader copies and outreach to relevant reviewers to build a strong pre-launch review pipeline? So what do you think, Ben?
I'm gonna I'm gonna go with the networking and tapping into the networks of people in your network
Mm-hmm.
and look for leads through the people you know first, and then but don't discount any idea just because you don't know someone. Approach them. I think uh, writers like to be approached and not not as a nuisance, but just as an approach to say, I've got this, it's forthcoming. Uh, can I ask you for a blurb? And no, worst case they say no, but worst case or next to the worst case they say no, but good luck with it. And then because mostly they will be encouraging. I don't if they're not encouraging in the long run, what'd you ask them for? and, and and don't get hung up on uh, the negativity that may be out there, may exist. But I think for the most part, you'll find that there's a lot of positive attitudes and positive feedback that you'll get. So
Yeah.
that's the network spin. There are many places that uh, Book Award Pro sends me all kinds of places that are reviewing books all the time, and sometimes it gets costly. You have to decide your own budget for it, but get your title out there, and any from local newspapers to local newspaper write a review on your own book and post it to your local newspaper. They're always looking for small columns to fill.
Mm, yeah, that's all great advice. And actually, what's also pretty cool, you can do searches on like Instagram. For some reason, Instagram and TikTok are really hot for like book reviews and for book bloggers. And you can actually do a search on, like book reviewers, book bloggers, and see who's hot. Now, one really amazing tip that we've all gotten recently from Peter's wife, Kathy, who is a marketing professional. She's actually like a chief marketing officer. And it was that don't go for the book bloggers or the bloggers in general who have like 100,000 or like a million followers. You want to go for the guys who've got between like 5 and 25,000 followers, something like that, because the people who are following them are actual fans, right? And so the likelihood that they're paying attention and that they will actually action upon whatever is being recommended is significantly higher, believe it or not, than if you go for the guy who's got like, 500,000 followers or a million followers or whatever, because what the statistics have shown are that their followers are passive followers and they just kind of skim through it, right? They're not really paying attention. And you want the ones that where the guys are actually being paid attention to. Um, and it can't hurt to it's kind of another spin on Ben's advice about um, networking. Look at who your favorite authors are like connecting with when they're putting a book out, right? So there are some blogs that like if you're really into like pop culture um books or titles, they actively they have huge followings, right? And who are very active because they're super fans, right? So look for who your favorite authors are actually, where they're getting posted other than, like the New York Times or whatever, right? You want to go for the to Ben's point, like the regional and the local, because those are the guys, again, whoever's following them, they actually give a shit. And so they're going to be more likely to follow up on it. And believe it or not, I mean, this is actually really interesting. I mean, I knew this was true to a certain extent, but I didn't realize that it's almost kind of this underground network of how to find new talent. And so what I'm talking about is both from a book perspective, like you have a short story published or you have a journalism article published or whatever with like a smaller venue or something that's more regional. A lot of the bigger houses and the more um, uh, countrywide media actually mine those smaller magazines and journals and so on, and the independents for new talent. So, really don't discount your local guys because they'll get the word out for your local people. And when you're going out and you're trying to get like book signings or book appearances, a lot of times those bookstores, they may and libraries and so on, they may actually Google search you to see, does anybody know who the hell you are and is anybody following you, right? Which is smart, right? Like, you know, that's a smart play. So, look at, who are the locals. Another big thing that we typically recommend is if you're going to do book appearances or even like virtual appearances, don't do it by yourself. When you reach out especially if you're not that well known, if when you reach out to bookstores before you do it, see if you can get a group of other writers together who might be interested in doing a book tour with you. Now, they don't have to be having a book coming out tomorrow. Maybe they've already had the book come out, right? Maybe they just published a novella as a part of a series. Maybe they have one piece in a magazine or in a newspaper, or what, not newspaper, but like a book or whatever. But the point is that the more people who are there, the greater likelihood that you're going to have more people show up for that event. So you want to stack the cards in your favor, right? Advanced reader copies. I mean, and I, as well as Peter, we have all been huge advocates of the second you have a final copy in your hand, PDF that motherfucker. Say that's an advanced review an advanced digital copy, and start reaching out to everybody and their mother who you think would be interested or a potential to check out your book, and go bold, right? Go for the if you're whatever your genre is, right? If you're a thriller writer, go for the Tom Clancy's, right? Who cares if he pretends you don't exist? Psst, his loss, right? But you really want to you go big, because you never know who's going to come back and say yes. And I mean, you're still going to go for the regionals. You're going to go for who your faves are, who may not be as well known, right? But you need, really, 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 really spread the word. Um, yeah, and the other actually really big statistic that I saw more recently was, um, for whatever reason in today's economy, authors often, they don't really start becoming known and seeing an increase in their book sales or in attention from booksellers until their third book. So keep that in mind if you're putting out your first book or your second book and you're feeling kind of downtrodden because it's like, oh my God, I did all this work, and I'm not seeing as much, not as many people as I thought are buying it. Like, I don't understand. For whatever reason, it's really when they hit the third book is when, or when we hit the third book is when you really start seeing a greater interest, both from readers and from those who purchase the books. So the booksellers and the libraries and the schools and all that. So don't. But and think about it too, though. What that really means as well is you just spent 3 books worth of effort in building, to Ben's point, right? And building that network and building those fans. So I mean, logically, it makes sense. It's just, you know, sucks. Caroline, CJ, Rod, Margaret, they all say, hey guys, as always, it's wonderful to see you. Believe it or not, we've got 2 more sets of questions that came through over the week. This set is from Rose Cortina. So Rose asks, what do you think about underground artist writers who used to be booksellers and know how to get in the back door while their actual nonfiction with their actual nonfiction, and have made social change for less fortunate, while technically in poverty? That was a lot.
Process that. Uh, I'm all for it. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's any. There are so many doors that that you can't know all where all the doors are. So when you see somebody finding a hidden door, celebrate it and call it victory. And if they're doing it, even greater if they're doing it for art's sake or for humanity's sake instead of
Mm.
uh, the new yacht, then that's that may be even better. It's art paying off in a different way than monetary measures. So
Yeah.
I think that you pull them into your network. If they know a back door into anywhere that helps you out, pull them into your network.
I mean, honestly, I think I completely agree with fabulous. I completely agree with everything Ben just said. And just to kind of add on to it, I think in today's society, there's a lot of misconceptions about what authors or and publishers actually make from the books that they sell, right? Or licensing or things like that. I think there's this perception that like, oh, well, if I become a New York Times bestseller, like I could become a New York Times bestseller tomorrow or like a USA Today bestseller tomorrow and I will suddenly be a millionaire. And um well, all right, so let's break that down. I'm going to this is going to be called the optimistic point, right? So let's say you're a USA Today bestseller. In order to become a USA Today bestseller, you have to sell, I think it's 5,000 books in 1 week, 5,000 paperback or hardback. Now, a lot of people don't realize this, but most publishers only see, optimistically speaking, like $2 per book. So that's like what, $10,000 profit? And that's not looking at and I mean that's what they get from the distributor. That's not even, that doesn't include all the operational costs, right? So let's say, so you've got 5,000 books. You get your publisher gets, again, optimistically, $2 per book, and that's for paperback. Believe it or not, ebooks, they see a lot more money. Usually, it's more like $3 to $4. Again, optimistically, right? It depends on whatever deal was made in terms of for wholesale. Because some distributors, we've had our distributor at times go as high as like 89% off the cover price for an ebook. And when I first saw our sales numbers, I was jumping for joy. And then I saw what deal was made and I was like, oh my God, so maybe we're lucky if we got a penny? Like, okay. So anyway, so back to so let's say, there's $10,000 made. A classic deal with a large, just a classic house. That means the author will probably, maybe, again, optimistically, we'll see like $1,500, maybe 2,000, and that's for being on the USA Today bestseller list. And then if it's New York Times, it's I believe it's 6,000, right? So let's say 6,000 times 2, you got 12,000 there. And if you're with a big house, it's usually a 15 or 20% is your um, not upfront. Dang it, royalties. So you're going to make around 1,800 to 2,000 for that 1 week, right? So you may actually be making a hell of a lot more money right now on your day job than the guy who just hit the New York Times bestseller list. And by the way, you're getting benefits, I'm gonna guess. Um, so there are actually quite a few authors who are bestsellers. I mean, huge bestsellers, and they still have day jobs because they have to. They need the medical, they need the dental, right? They need the health insurance. They need the health insurance. They need all of that, right? Um, Not to put everyone down on this like huge depressive thing, but and that's also why when you hear like a lot of the huge best-selling authors, and I mean like huge, right? Like these guys are making big deals. Their upfronts are, so upfront is that lump sum payment that they get up front before they actually start writing a book, right? It's when the deal is first cut. These are the guys who are getting like 50,000, $100,000 for upfront. Like they don't need to have a day job, right? But they're also the equivalent of like our society's 1%. So, these are all things to keep in mind. And the other thing to keep in mind is, and it was interesting because I led a panel um, at StokerCon with editors, which and I talked about this last time. I wanted to call it "Don't be a dick," right? How to interact with with a publisher. And they were like, that's kind of inappropriate. So we used some like, corporate terminology and we went with that because we're all good at you know, um, rewording things so that they're more acceptable. And anyway, so I actually was sitting right next to the editor, one of the executive editors for Tor, and Tor is under, I want to say, Simon and Schuster, I think. But anyway, a point that she made, which was really interesting, um, was that there's a purpose for every kind of house. There's a purpose for the self pub. There's a purpose for the small independents. There's a purpose for the mid-size, and there's a purpose for the large houses. And oftentimes, the purpose of the small and mid-size is to find that groundbreaking talent. It's to publish those stories or those pieces that are exploring things that are typically ignored by the larger presses, because there's something about it that is either perceived as it's not socially acceptable, or um, usually it's more so that they don't think they're going to make a lot of money off of it, right? So then they'll see that, oh no, look, this actually got a lot of attention, it did really well, blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden you're going to see an uptick in it. So like, I've actually had several um larger um authors who will remain nameless comment on the fact that, like, after we started publishing novella anthologies and they started getting a lot more attention, now all of a sudden you're seeing novella anthologies even by large houses. And that was complete, like, you just never saw that, right? um and there, for a long time, short story anthologies were pretty much ignored as well. And again, after, we basically said, look, this is how you find great talent, whether you're another house or whether you're a reader. And then again, all of a sudden, you started seeing this uptick in short story anthologies. So, to Ben's point, hey, if you've got a story in you and you want to bring it forward, do it, right? Use those connections that you have to your advantage, as you should, and make it real. So, I don't know. That hopefully that all made sense, right? I don't know, Ben, is there anything else you want to add to that one?
Just well, it's a good point of what are you writing for? Define that up front. What are you writing for?
Yeah.
And all that that Lisa just said, and then said, I hope it didn't sound too negative. Um, take that now. Take a poetry collection, and if it sells 1,000 copies total, it's a top seller. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not in a week. That's that's in its
Ever.
run. Yeah. And so feel it's not negative at all of what she just described, because the thousand if you sell 1,000 copies of a poetry collection,
Incredible.
that's incredible. Yeah.
Mm. And also, don't get discouraged. Like, if you're publishing with a small or mid-sized press and you're not selling in the thousands, don't get discouraged, don't get upset. Understand, your buddy who may be with, Simon and Schuster or Penguin or whatever, they have a huge marketing and publicity team, and they basically look at the titles that are coming out and they say, okay, uh, do we think this is gonna could does this have the potential to do really well? And they basically put their eggs in those baskets and say, all right, we're gonna spend, $50,000 on promotions for this one book because we think we're going to get 10 times the return, right? And also understand that those books that they're picking, you know, they're ones that they believe are going to be slam dunks. And that's also why you often see titles that, like the Harry Potters, right? Originally, they're published with smaller mid-sized presses. They do really well. They get a lot of attention, and then when that print run's done or when that agreement with that publisher's done, then the author may get picked up by a larger house, right? Again, though, remember, there's only one Harry Potter, and I mean that in terms of the societal impact and how it went viral. And, you know, at least in this generation, there has only been one Harry Potter. But I know, at least in my lifetime, I can think of at least three variations of a Harry Potter in terms of sales and popularity. So, but I think there's something crazy like 270,000 books are published per year. Um, so again, take that into context. And again, not to be depressing because that's not the intent, but it's to be realistic. Understand what your purpose is. Why are you writing? What is your objective? And focus when you are out there and you are putting the word out about your book. If you really wrote an art book and you're trying to get it on um, the Today Show, it's probably not a high likelihood that you're going to get an interview on the Today Show if you wrote an art book. But if you wrote a book in partnership with like J.K. Rowling or Anne Rice or something like that, because they think you're the next, you know, superstar, you're probably going to get that USA Today interview, right? So again, understand, what your purpose is, and as you're going out there and you're doing your various marketing and publicity efforts, it's smart to say stay focused initially on those things that are aligned with what you wrote. I mean, it doesn't mean don't expand, but you want to be smart about it, you know, and then take it from there. So, um,
You get to define your own success. It's I'm reminded tonight of a classmate of mine going through a doctoral cohort. We
mhm.
were we were all going through the to get our doctorate, and he was older, and he said, "I just want my doctorate to have something to put on my tombstone." And
Okay.
that was success to him. I want to get it and put it on my tombstone, and it made sense. Yeah, it's just as good as any other reason. And, and
Mhm.
and writing and publishing is the same way. What do you want? What would you call success?
Yep.
And be very clear about it, be very honest about it. It's a do you want fame and fortune? Then
Well, I
write for
mean,
fame and
again, not
fortune.
to be like down. Oh, there we are.
But what did you
Uh,
say?
I don't know. Yeah, well, we both got lost and now we're both back. So at least we're back.
Oh, cool. You said
Yeah,
the Matrix.
yeah, dun, dun, dun. But yeah, I mean, to again, to Ben's point, so much of this is, you know, um, what again, figure out what your purpose is, because you're gonna hit so many moments where you think, fuck this, I don't care anymore, right? Like this is just so not worth it. Um, you need to have that, whatever your definition of north is. And I don't know if I ever shared this before. When I was in high school, and like junior high through high school, and somewhat in college, I did a lot of acting and like a lot of stage theater and all this. And so I was like, I'm going to be an actor, right? And I graduated from high school, and I would go to like little local auditions, and M. Night Shyamalan had an open call, and he specified he wanted a redhead, like a female redhead around whatever height, for his next film. And I was like, all right, I've got this, right? Like there's not that many redheads on the planet, which is true, technically speaking. Um, and I'm gonna knock this out the park. So I show up to the audition. Oh my God. It was packed. I mean, even though they specified like age range and stuff, there was everything from like a little 5-year-old kid to like, an 80-year-old woman who clearly that she was not a natural redhead, but like clearly she also didn't care, right? All in line waiting to for an audition, and I don't know why, but there was something about that I thought, I don't want to be one of the pack. I don't want to be a sheep. Like, this is not cool. I like being unique. I enjoy being me. So I don't want to do this. And I think I hung out for maybe an hour, and then I jetted. I was like, I'm done. And that was it. That was the last audition I ever went to. It just so horrified me. So, like, think of right. I mean, seriously, writing's the same thing. You're going to put in so much energy. You're going to put in so much time. You are going to, you know, there's so much behind the scenes that you have to do. And just the answer of like, well, I only want to write and everything else can fuck off. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. I mean, you can do that, but then don't ever expect to actually get published unless you're going to self-publish, and that's okay. But then don't beat yourself up over that, right? That was a choice you made. All of it's choice. So, yeah. Okay, we've
Even
got
the classmates in MFA programs.
mm,
You're going to see some great talent in MFA programs, and they're going to graduate, and they don't write.
yep.
And for whatever reason, for personal reasons, family reasons, writer's cramp, writer's block, whatever gets in the way, they
Mm.
they just don't write.
Yeah, Ben and I both have friends from our respective MFAs who are brilliant writers, and they're not writing. Or they just decide, like, I have one friend from my MFA, she's like an executive admin at Yale. And I was like, "Why? You have a master's degree." Like, and she really is brilliant. I mean, she's a fabulous writer. But there's so many people like that. It's just like, I guess they just lost their drive, you know? So, all right, one more. This is from Roberta Codemo. Roberta asks, "Do you work with freelance proofreaders? I have experience working with a small press based out of South Africa." That's a great question, actually, Roberta. So it's not that we work with proofreaders. We actually work with uh, editors. So we contract out, every book that we put out is actually, it's an individual contract per book for the editor as well as for the writer. So if you are interested in more so being an editor, and for us, editing is both the full story, right, as well as line edits. If that's something that you want to do, then you can actually reach out to me at runningwildeditor@gmail.com and just let me know that you're interested. And I will send you the test that we send to anybody who's interested in being an editor with us. And you complete the test, and we'll see if it's a good fit. So,
It's a difficult test.
just you're like, yeah, no, yeah, no.
It's
It's fun.
it's a valuable test.
Mm. It's
Screen us as we screen you. It's a mutual test.
yeah, that's true. It is definitely a mutual screening. Yeah. Hmm. You'd be surprised at some of the submissions we've gotten. I was like, wow, oh, that's so interesting, but not a good fit. And like when I come back to them and I inform them, yeah, they're usually shocked. So, anyway, um, cool. All right, so oh my gosh, we're more than halfway through. That's crazy. So okay, guys, if you're watching and it's not between 5 and 6 p.m. Pacific time or 8 and 9 p.m. Eastern time, then go ahead and pop your questions into the comments section, and we will do our best to answer them in the subsequent session. And with that,
Good questions. Those were like
hmm?
questions that needed in-depth answers.
Yeah, they were really, really good questions. Those were
Mm.
great. Totally. But if anyone's watching now, again, feel free to go ahead and pop your questions into the comments section. Clearly, we answer a wide variety of questions. But
All
Ben,
good
so
questions.
they're all good questions.
Yeah.
So Ben, anything cool or exciting or fun going on this past week?
I'm close to finishing my first time through Shaking, the novel Shaking,
Oh
and
wow.
it is there are places where you can see that it's not a first draft, which is okay, but you can see evidence of a previous draft still there that
Hmm.
needs to be polished and taken out or
Hmm.
taken care of.
Hmm.
Just so the details and the flow of the story shows you that uh, that was another version. We got to make
Oh.
sure we get that out of there. But for the most part, it's very well written, and it's the story is not collapsing. It's maintaining its energy as it goes. And
Hmm.
I just had a terrible thought today as I was reading some more chapters. I said, I hope that I don't get to the last 50 pages and this thing just falls apart.
Oh yeah.
What a nightmare! But I don't think it will. But just it's an editor's nightmare to think, oh, what if the end doesn't pull this off?
Uh, well, then you get to work with them on
Yeah,
redoing
then we
that
fix it.
ending. Yeah, that's all. It's all good.
Then what happened?
Ah!
Yeah.
Yeah, I finished editing one work and then actually, I guess technically two works, and one of them is creative nonfiction, and there are portions where he kind of goes off on tangents of things that it's clear he finds very interesting, and it may be stuff that he does, like he likes to go to like the old school horror uh movie night at one of the local movie theaters, and then there's this whole section where he's like summarizing each one of the movies. Well, that's great that you're interested in that, but it has jack shit to do with your life, and it doesn't actually feed back to the theme
Yeah.
or the arc within the creative nonfiction, right? So it, although I'm sure he had a blast writing it, like it's clear when you read it, he had a blast writing it, but it's got nothing to do with nothing, right? So, and he goes off on these, here and there where again, like he starts writing in third person close about a female, and then her life, and then at one point says basically like, oh, this is me, and I'm like, no, we're not. No. Don't just randomly throw this in because you're afraid all of a sudden your editor is going to say, no, this is not about you. Like this, you just made up a story, which is fine. It could be a great short story, but it doesn't belong in this,
Yeah. Yeah.
So supposedly he's already gone through all the feedback. I gave a lot of feedback, right? And he's a beautiful writer. Don't get me wrong. It's absolutely gorgeous prose. Um, but he said he's already gone through everything, so it'll be fascinating. And I mean, I only finished it like, I don't know, Sunday, Saturday, maybe something like that. So we'll see.
And did you see that a lot of it needed to be cut or
Yeah.
polished? Cut. Yeah.
The polishing was relatively easy because he went through sections where he used the passive
Mhm.
voice quite a bit, and usually those were items where he was entering into topics that personally would be painful. At least that's my perception, right?
Yeah.
Because he does talk about a lot of things that could be, quite emotionally traumatic. And but it was more so, yeah, it was more so cut, or like, okay, if you're going to keep this, you need to tie it back to you, right? This
Yeah.
can't just be, I'm going to insert something because I think it's super cool, so. Like that's not how this works. Sorry. Um, so yeah, so that'll be interesting. And now we're down to only 3 books need editors. So, we're slowly getting there. And
We've
myself,
come a long way if it's only three to go.
oh my gosh, we seriously have. We've come a very long way. And actually, myself and Cody and Joelle, who's one of our leadership team, we're all going to be at the American Library Association's like their big annual conference in San Diego next week. So we will be at the IBPA table representing not just Running Wild and RIZE, but also IBPA, obviously. IBPA is the Independent Book Publishers Association. So a lot of like small and mid-sized presses are members because in all honesty, they offer a lot of great benefits and it give that allow you to have exposure and your press to have exposure to things that you probably wouldn't have any access to otherwise. Excuse me. So, it's my first time going. I think it's Cody's first time going. It's definitely Joelle's. So, fingers crossed. I keep hearing great things about it. So, fingers crossed that we all have a good experience. Um, and then I got pinged about us potentially going to the International Licensing Expo in Germany. And I've also heard that that's also like huge. Like if you want to have your books picked or your stories picked up, not just for translation, but even for like, I guess Germany takes a lot of like thrillers and like crime fiction and stuff and makes them into TV shows and movies and things like that. So uh I'm it's one of those that I'm like, yes, it would be great if we went, and but I'm also slightly kind of hesitant just because we haven't like we've had the Seymour agencies represented us there. Um but they didn't have a lot of actually I think overall they didn't really get a lot of response. So um but it was funny because Nicole, who's the president of the Seymour Agency, said, "Oh yeah, they went up to like these different tables and they were like, oh yeah, we're here. We have all these titles from Running Wild." And they went, "Who?" And I thought, why would they know who we are? Like, we're this like relatively small press out of Los Angeles, well, Los Angeles, New Mexico, and Florida. Like, why would these people have any idea who we are? You know what I mean? Like, but okay, sure.
Yeah,
Mm,
we'll
mm,
take it. It's one of those
yeah,
hidden doors. We'll take it.
yeah, yeah. Um, so anyway, although it does seem like the more events that I've been attending, at least within the industry, meaning like, like publishing and anything related to, I'd say, storytelling, uh, it seems like people actually know who we are, which is it's a nice surprise. So,
Yeah.
mhm, yeah.
And Cody's got a book just released or about to be released, hasn't he?
Yeah, it got an amazing Kirkus review. Now I have to look it up.
Nice.
Yeah, he really he knocked it out of the park. Um, I'm like Cody Cisco book, and he does an
Amy's got a good
annual,
review on the
huh?
Pocket Full of Teeth. Amy's.
Oh, she just keeps getting she got a phenomenal Kirkus review. She keeps getting these amazing blogger reviews. I mean, she is truly knocking that out of the park. Um, so Cody Cisco's book is called Broken Mirror.
That's right.
It's a I'd call it literary science fiction. And let's see. So Kirkus says a fantastic sci-fi thriller with a sincere and important message. And let's see. His book comes out August 16th. And they got their overall verdict was absolutely get it. So very, very cool. Huge kudos to Cody. And he's going to do a book signing for Broken Mirror, I believe, while we're there. Or it might be made in LA. So he also does annually a short story collection uh, of authors who are based out of Los Angeles called Made in LA. So he may be also signing that too.
Yeah.
And I just got pinged to sign Cure. So Cure is, for anyone who's watching, is the first book in a series. The second book comes out October 3rd. So looking forward to getting that out there. So that should be a lot of fun. Cremo says, "Hey Lisa, hey Cree, as always, awesome to see you." And I can't believe it, guys. We have less than 15 minutes left. That's just called Ben and I entertaining ourselves. We're good at that. So,
We had questions.
mm.
Hey, how did Drexel go? How was the commencement?
Oh, it was actually really good. So, oh, it was uh about 1,000 people there, 900 to 1,000. So that was pretty decent. And um what was really funny was, so before, when they asked me if I would do it, I was like, yeah, sure. Is there anything you want me to focus on? And they were like, well, just tell your story. Right. And so I was like, okay. I mean, you know, let's just keep this to something that's inspirational. And the dean asked that I also point out that I'm like, well, not call myself a unicorn, but how I have strengths both in analytics and creative. And that's one of the things that attracted me about Drexel, is because Drexel College of Arts and Sciences is actually very, very well known for both their creative school as well as their more analytical and science and engineering, right? So I show up and we're hanging out in the green room, right in the back, and someone starts talking about the previous year's speaker. Well, it turns out, and I don't know who it was. I don't know what her name was, so she'll remain nameless. um, but the previous year's speaker, it turns out she had I think she was like, a neuropsychologist or something like that. And because of her expertise, she was like the expert that a lot of media called on, right? And so she actually ended up having this consulting company that was more so focused on that, right? Being the expert around anything around neuropsychology and everything. So she ended up, it sounded like she basically used the speech as a way to promote her consulting company. And then all of a sudden, in like the last 5 minutes of her speech, she goes off about how, I guess, her husband had had a stroke, or like some kind of like brain aneurysm or something, where he's incapable of taking care of himself. And this occurred in like the last, I don't know, 3 years, 5 years. And so, she went from having this very active life to now she basically stays at home and takes care of her husband. And it was like, you know and I basically, I take care of my husband, and that's my life now. Thank you and goodbye. Like that was it. Like there was no it wasn't there was no inspiration. There was no like, and you guys will knock this out of the park, right? There's no, you're amazing, go Dragons. So, like Drexel's brand is a dragon.
Yeah.
None of that, right? And everyone just kind of sat there like, "Oh my god, now what do we do?" Right? Like, holy shit. Like, how do you even interact with someone after that? Like, thank you? I'm sorry. I don't know. Like, what do you say? And so I was like, okay, I'll do my best not to do that. So as I was like, going back to my little chair on the stage, I was like, they were like, okay, no, that was great. That was that's both the president and the dean went out of their way to like, no, no, that was wonderful. Yes, thank you. I'm like, okay, good. So, and some parents came up to me, and some of the kids came up to me afterwards as well. So that was really nice. So, but I also have this, it's so funny. Like I practice the hell out of whatever I'm gonna say when I'm talking about something, well, I would anyway, but especially when I'm talking about something personal that has some kind of trauma associated with it. Because I'm a crier, but I mean like happy crier, sad crier. For whatever reason, I'm not in like day to day. Like in day to day, it's like I don't emote. And not that I don't emote, but you know what I mean? Like if there's some major trauma, I go and I take care of the trauma and everything's fine. You know what I mean? But like for whatever stupid ass reason, you get me on camera and you have or in front of like a major audience, and I do everything I can not to bust out crying. It is ridiculous. And I don't know what the trigger is. It's completely it feels random. But and then everyone's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I am totally." Now, mind you, I didn't cry. Like, but I was like, "Okay, don't do it." But like the whole time I'm practicing, I don't cry at all. Like serious, I don't have the urge to cry. Nothing. Nope. Mm-mm. I'm totally fine. But man, you get me on stage. Boom. I'm like, man, again? Come on. That's so not fair. So if anybody has tricks for that, like totally put it in the comments section. Like how to I mean I try I rehearse the hell out of it. Again, it's only when I'm talking about personal things that have some kind of, emotional weight to it.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So anyway, um, but yeah, that's it did it. It went really well, and I was really happy to be home and be able to eat vegetables because I don't know how many of you are used to traveling, but for some reason, man, in today's world, it's hard to find a decent like salad or like, you know, vegetables that aren't just full of butter or oil or fried something something, you know. And so I feel like crap by the time I get home after traveling for like a week. And it's because I just haven't been able to eat my normal healthy, you know. So
Yeah.
I don't know. How about you, Ben? How are you when you talk in front of lots of people all the time?
Yeah. But it'll sneak up on me sometimes too
Oh yeah.
when the topic turns into a that kind of memory with meaning,
Mm,
and then you're sharing something that it deserves the emotion, I guess, and that's okay. It's
mm,
that's part of the human experience. We'll, how cold can we be?
mm,
But and even the they used to talk about changes of command in the Coast Guard.
mm,
Um, if as the outgoing commander was leaving, the crew would wait for them to lose watertight integrity. That's
oh.
and cry. Watertight integrity is what keeps the boats afloat. So
Mm,
when they're doing that speech and they're talking about the last 3 years they've been in a place, it's an emotional time. You're leaving,
mm,
and they say, "Oh, he almost lost watertight integrity."
Wow. Oh, that's
or
so
he did lose
cool.
watertight integrity.
I
You
love
know,
that.
I,
That's a great term. I'd never heard that
yeah,
before. Yeah, that's awesome.
it's a Coast Guard nautical
It's a
thing.
cool. Ah, very cool.
Yeah, but
Uh,
I think it adds to the experience of getting, whether you're reading your stuff or you're telling of the background story of a piece,
mhm,
or just telling the your experience.
mm,
It adds to it. It connects it because the we're it's part of being human.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, and the complete flip side is if you put me in front of an audience to read my own work, because I've already gone through it 5 bajillion times, I get so bored reading it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Here we go.
yeah, here we go. Like, well, like, you got 10 minutes, and I get through like five, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Are you sure? Can I be done now? So I have to have tricks that, like to get you to stay hyped up about it,
Yeah.
but or I start nitpicking it in my head, like as I'm reading it, like, ugh, yeah, I don't like that sentence anymore. I'm gonna change this.
I find so much of that depends on the audience too. The
Mm.
if if you interact with the audience and get their energy, that helps
Oh, that's true.
because it's new to them, and even though you could recite it without the book, or it's still new to them.
That's true. Yeah, that's one thing that you really need to take into account.
Yeah.
Sorry. Someone's knocking at my front door, and I'm just letting them know I'll be down in a few minutes. So, um, but yeah,
Right on
no,
time for pizza.
hmm?
It's right on time for the pizza guy.
Yeah, right, exactly. How nice would that be? Oh my gosh. So I had ordered Chipotle for when my like the flight land, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna get Chipotle at home. So because I knew I didn't have anything in the fridge, and I'm in the car getting my drive home, and I'm like, I wonder if they're gonna beat me, right? And I look, and Chipotle canceled the order. I guess it was too close to their closing time
Yeah.
because it was like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. And so it was like, yeah, we're not going to fulfill this order. I was so effing hungry because I had been traveling. I had been on flights. Well, I'd been at the airport since like 11 o'clock in the morning, and
Yeah.
my flight landed at like 7:30 at night from
Yeah.
East
3 hour
Coast to
change.
West. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whew. Man, I think I had like a protein bar. Like that was it. Like I was just like I could have eaten my hand. Like it was ridiculous. So, anyway, my neighborhood uh my corner cafe saved the day, but
Right.
that was a bummer. Chipotle don't do things like that. I was really looking forward to that. That's like some of the closest to healthy fast food not, you know what I mean, semi
Yeah.
fast food, I guess, yeah, you can get. So
Yeah.
don't do that. So anyway, all right, well, with that, I hope you guys had an amazing time hanging out with us. We love hanging out with you. And as always, don't forget, you want to come and join us on Thursdays between 5 and 6 p.m. Pacific time, or 8 and 9 p.m. Eastern time. And again, if you're watching this and it is not during that time period, just go ahead and pop your questions into the comments section. And as we've proven, We do go and we do check, and we are more than happy to respond to your questions.
Yes.
So with that, we will see you next week. Love you guys, and we will talk to you soon. Ciao.
Have a good week.